March 4, 2002, Shai-Kot Valley, Afghanistan, 9,000 feet above sea level. Al-Qaeda fighters moving into position on a mountainside, armed, confident, protected by terrain the Soviets couldn't conquer. 2.5 kilometers away, a Canadian corporal named Rob Furlong adjusts his scope. The air is thin, the wind is unpredictable. The target is so far away he can barely see him through the mirage of heat rising off the rocks. His spotter does the math: elevation, wind speed, barometric pressure. The Coriolis effect of the Earth's rotation. That's 2,400 meters, the spotter says quietly. Furlong knows what that means. No one has ever made this shot. Not in combat. Not in training. Not in the 40 years since Carlos Hathcock set the record in Vietnam. He fires. For 7 seconds the bullet flies, through thermal layers, through crosswinds. Through a distance most snipers consider impossible. The Al-Qaeda fighter drops, dead before the sound reaches him. A new record, a new era, a new kind of warfare. This is the story of Joint Task Force 2, Canada's most classified warriors, the snipers who changed modern combat in the mountains of Afghanistan, the operators who became legends, without anyone knowing their names. Chapter 1. Into the Mountains, December 2001. Kandahar Airfield. The first Canadians arrive in Afghanistan wearing green. Desert camouflage? They don't have it. Arctic training gear? That's what they brought. American soldiers stare as they walk off the plane in forest pattern uniforms, carrying snowshoes and winter sleds. Who the fuck are these guys? One you. Army Ranger mutters. Good question, because buried in that deployment of regular Canadian infantry is a unit that doesn't exist on paper, 40 operators from Joint Task Force 2. Canada's Tier 1 Special Operations Force, so secret that Canadian law prohibits publishing their names or faces, so elite they train alongside Delta Force and SEAL Team 6. The Canadian public doesn't know they're here. The Canadian Parliament doesn't know they're here. Hell, Prime Minister Jean Chrétien reportedly doesn't even know they're here. But they're here, and they're about to change everything. Let me take you back. September 11, 2001. The towers fall. America declares war on terror. Coalition forces invade Afghanistan. By December, the Taliban regime collapses. Al-Qaeda scatters into the mountains. But Osama bin Laden? He's gone. Disappeared into the cave complexes near the Pakistan border. And his most hardened fighters? They're dug into the White Mountains. Prepared to fight. Prepared to die. The Americans need special operators who can hunt in terrain that kills conventional forces. High altitude, extreme cold at night, burning heat during the day, mountains that turn helicopters into death traps. They call their NATO allies. The Canadians answer. Task Force K-Bar forms. US Navy SEALs, Green Beret, British SAS, and 40 JTF2 assaulters under the command of US Navy Captain Robert Harwood. Their first joint mission nearly ends in disaster. A Chinook helicopter carrying JTF2 operators makes a hard landing near a Taliban command node. The bird's damaged. Insurgents are closing in. The Canadians have to fight their way out on foot. They do. 0 casualties. Mission success. Harwood later calls it the first coalition direct action mission since the Second World War, but that's just the warm-up. In January 2002, JTF2 reconnaissance teams deploy to Jawar Kili, a massive cave complex south of Tora Bora. They're searching for Al-Qaeda leadership, for weapons caches, for any sign of bin Laden. What they find instead are tunnels that go on for kilometers. Soviet-era ammunition, chemical weapons precursors, and evidence that someone very important was here recently, but he's gone. By February 2002, intelligence indicates a major Al-Qaeda and Taliban gathering in eastern Afghanistan, the Shai-Kot Valley, a remote bowl of mountains near the Pakistan border. Elevation, 8,000 to 10,000 feet. Terrain, brutal. US Central Command plans Operation Anaconda, the largest offensive since the invasion. The goal, destroy Al-Qaeda forces before they can regroup, trap them in the valley, cut off their escape routes, eliminate them. 800 fighters are estimated to be in the valley. The real number? Over 500. Battle-hardened, dug into fortified positions, armed with heavy weapons, mortars, and anti-aircraft guns. The Americans request Canadian support. Specifically, they want JTF2 snipers. Because conventional infantry can assault a position. Special forces can infiltrate and raid. But snipers? Snipers can control terrain without ever being seen. They can eliminate high-value targets from distances that make retaliation impossible. They can create fear in an enemy that doesn't understand where death is coming from, and JTF2 has the best snipers in the world. 6 operators from 3rd Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, form the sniper cell. Master Corporal Graham Ragsdale leads the team. Master Corporal Aaron Perry, Corporal Rob Furlong, Master Corporal Tim McMeekin, Corporal Dennis Eason. Each one is a specialist. Each one has trained for years for missions exactly like this. They're issued Macmillan TAC 50 rifles, bolt action, 50 BMG caliber, purpose-built for extreme range engagement. At sea level, the weapon is accurate 2,800 meters, but they're not at sea level. At 9,000 feet, the thinner air means bullets travel farther, faster, with less drag. The same rifle that maxes out at 1,800 meters down low. Up here, in the right conditions, it can reach beyond 2,400 meters. If the shooter is good enough, these shooters are good enough. On March 1, 2002, they insert into the Shah-i-Kot Valley. U.S. Army 10th Mountain Division and 101st Airborne are preparing to sweep the valley floor. Special Operations Forces are establishing observation posts on the ridgelines. The Canadians climb higher than everyone else. They find positions that overlook the entire battlefield, positions where they can see for miles, where they can engage targets that conventional forces can't even reach, and then they wait. March 2nd, Operation Anaconda begins. All hell breaks loose. Chapter 2, Operation Anaconda, March 2nd, 2002. Dawn. The Americans expect light resistance. Quick mop-up operation. Secure the valley by nightfall. They're wrong. Al-Qaeda opens fire from prepared positions. Heavy machine guns, mortars, RPGs, recoilless rifles. The valley floor becomes a kill zone. A U.S. helicopter carrying Navy SEAL reconnaissance team gets hit by RPG fire. The bird crashes on a ridgeline. One SEAL, Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, falls out during the emergency landing. He's alone, surrounded, armed with only a light machine gun and a pistol. He fights for hours, kills multiple enemy fighters. But there are too many. Roberts dies on that mountain, the first American killed in Operation Anaconda. His teammates launch an immediate rescue attempt. 2 Chinooks full of Rangers fly into the same area. Both birds get shredded by enemy fire. One crash lands, the other barely makes it out. The Rangers are pinned down, taking casualties, fighting at point-blank range against fighters who've been waiting for this moment. This is supposed to be a quick operation. It's turning into the bloodiest battle of the war. U.S. commanders call for air support. F-15s, F-16s, AC-130 gunships. Bombs rain down on enemy positions. Artillery hammers the mountainsides, but the Al-Qaeda fighters don't break. They've fought the Soviets. They've survived worse. They keep firing. That's when the Canadian snipers go to work. From their position overlooking the valley, Master Corporal Aaron Perry identifies targets. Fighters moving between positions, machine gun crews, mortar teams, leaders directing operations. Perry's job isn't to suppress them. It's to eliminate them permanently. He begins engaging. 1,000 meters, target down. 1,500 meters, target down. 1,800 meters, target down. Each shot is perfect. Each shot is surgical. The enemy doesn't know where it's coming from. They just know their fighters are dying. Then Perry sees an opportunity, a high-valued target, Al-Qaeda or Taliban leadership, organizing a counterattack. Directing fighters, giving orders, range, 2,310 meters. Perry has never attempted a shot at this distance. No one has, not in combat. The current record held by U.S. Marine Carlos Hathcock since 1967 is 2,286 meters. Perry does the math, checks the wind, adjusts for elevation, for temperature, for the thin mountain air. He fires. 3 seconds later, the target drops. Confirmed kill, 2,310 meters. Perry just broke a record that stood for 35 years. His teammates are stunned. U.S. forces monitoring the operation radio. Congratulations. It's an incredible shot. A historic shot, but it's about to be beaten. 2 days later, March 4, 2002, Corporal Rob Furlong is in position on a different ridgeline. The battle is still raging. U.S. forces are advancing, but Al-Qaeda fighters keep appearing. Reinforcements from Pakistan, local fighters, hardliners who won't surrender. Furlong spots a group of 3 Al-Qaeda fighters moving into position on a distant mountainside. One of them is carrying an RPK machine gun, setting up, preparing to fire on coalition troops advancing below. Furlong measures the distance with his laser rangefinder, 2,430 meters. Almost a mile and a half. His spotter, Master Corporal Tim McMeekin, looks at him. That's not possible. Furlong knows the odds. At this distance, 1,000 things can go wrong. Wind shifts, temperature changes, the target moves, the rifle shifts, gravity pulls the bullet down over 30 feet during flight. The curvature of the Earth affects the trajectory, but Furlong also knows something else. If he doesn't take this shot, that machine gunner kills Americans, maybe dozens of them. He calculates everything. Wind speed, 15 kilometers per hour gusting. Elevation difference, 1,200 feet. Air density, significantly lower than sea level. Distance, 2,430 meters. He even does something unconventional. He heats his bullets in the sun. Increases the powder burn rate, squeezes every last meter of range out of them. His first shot misses, but at this altitude his spotter can read the vapor trail. See exactly where the bullet went. Provide corrections. His second shot hits the target's backpack. Close. Very close. The Al-Qaeda fighters start to take cover. Furlong knows he has one more chance. Maybe 3 seconds before they disappear, he makes a final adjustment, breathes out, lets his heart rate drop, becomes perfectly still. He squeezes the trigger, the rifle thunders, the recoil slams his shoulder. The muzzle blast kicks up a cloud of dust, and for 7 seconds, the bullet flies, across the valley, over rocks, through thermals, through crosswinds, through air so thin it's barely there. The machine gunner's torso explodes. He collapses. Dead instantly. McMeekin watches through his spotting scope, confirms the hit, then looks at Furlong. That's a new record. 2,430 meters, 2,657 yards. 1. 51 miles. The longest confirmed sniper kill in military history. US forces on the ground radio up. Where the hell did that shot come from? No one can see the Canadian position. No muzzle flash. No scope glint. Nothing. The Americans start asking questions. Who are these guys? How are they making shots at ranges we didn't think were possible? The Canadians don't answer. They just keep working. Over the next week, the JTF2 sniper team makes dozens of kills. Some at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters. They protect US advances. They eliminate enemy leadership. They create chaos in Al-Qaeda ranks. The enemy fighters start to panic. They're being killed by something they can't see, can't fight, can't escape. By March 11th, Operation Anaconda is over. The valley is secured. Al-Qaeda's fighting force in the region is destroyed. Over 500 enemy fighters dead, many more wounded or captured. Coalition casualties, 8 killed, 72 wounded. The Canadians, 0 casualties. In December 2003, the JTF2 sniper team receives Bronze Star medals from the U.S. Army, a rare honor for foreign soldiers. The citation reads, "For exceptionally meritorious service in support of combat operations," but the medals are classified. The ceremony is closed. The names aren't published, because that's how JTF2 operates, in silence, in secrecy, in the shadows. But the legend? The legend is just beginning. Chapter 3. The Impossible Shot. Let's talk about what Rob Furlong actually did, because unless you understand the physics, you can't appreciate the skill. 2,430 meters, that's 15 football fields. That's the bullet traveling for almost 3 full seconds before impact. In 3 seconds, a lot happens. Gravity pulls the bullet down approximately 35 feet. That means Furlong has to aim 35 feet above his target's head. He's not aiming at the person he can barely see through his scope, he's aiming at empty sky above them. Wind. At that distance, a 10 km/h crosswind pushes the bullet sideways by over 6 feet. Furlong has to calculate wind speed at multiple altitudes. Because wind at ground level isn't the same as wind at 500 meters up, the bullet passes through different wind layers during its flight. Air temperature. The Shai-Kot Valley is freezing at night, burning hot during the day. Temperature affects air density. Density affects drag. Drag affects how fast the bullet slows down. Furlong has to account for the exact temperature when he fires. Altitude. At 9,000 feet, air pressure is 30% lower than at sea level. The bullet experiences less drag. Flies faster, farther, but it also means the trajectory calculations are completely different from what the rifle was designed for. The Coriolis effect. Yes, the rotation of the Earth. At 2,400 meters, firing east to west, the Earth's rotation shifts the impact point by several inches. Furlong has to compensate for this. The target is moving, not standing still. Walking, bending over, adjusting equipment. Furlong has to predict where the target will be in 7 seconds, his rifle. The Macmillan TAC-50 is phenomenal. But at this range, he's pushed it beyond its designed envelope. The scope is calibrated for shorter distances. He's estimating holdover based on experience and instinct, his ammunition. He's run out of sniper-grade match ammo. He's using standard-issue 50 BMG ball rounds, not designed for precision, but it's all he has, and he still makes the shot. This isn't luck, this is mastery. This is a human being operating at the absolute peak of his profession. The US military takes notice, immediately. Marine Corps sniper schools request Canadian instructors. Army Rangers want to understand the techniques. SOCOM studies the equipment, the tactics, the training methods. Because what Furlong proved is this, the battlefield just got bigger. For decades, snipers operated at 800 to 1,200 meters. That was the effective range. Anything beyond that was considered a Hail Mary shot. Possible in theory, impractical in reality. Furlong and Perry just doubled that range. In combat, under pressure, consistently, suddenly. Being a mile away from a sniper doesn't mean you're safe. Being behind cover doesn't mean you're protected. Being on a different mountain doesn't mean you're out of range. Nowhere is safe. That's the new reality, and it changes everything. Insurgent tactics change. Al-Qaeda and Taliban fighters stop gathering in groups. Stop using visible communications. Start moving only at night. Start trusting no one, because they've learned distance is no longer protection. But here's what makes Furlong's shot even more remarkable. He wasn't trying to set a record. He wasn't competing. He wasn't proving anything. He was doing his job, protecting friendly forces, eliminating a threat. The record was a byproduct. A footnote. What mattered was the mission, and that's the JTF2 mentality. Don't seek glory. Don't chase headlines. Do the work. Save lives. Go home. Furlong's record stands for 7 years. Until November 2009, when British sniper Craig Harrison breaks it with a 2,475-meter shot in Helmand Province. Harrison kills 2 Taliban machine gunners with consecutive shots at that range, using an L-1FUMV-A3 rifle. In almost identical conditions, high altitude, mountainous terrain, Harrison's record stands until May 2017, when an unnamed JTF2 operator in Iraq breaks it again, 3,540 meters, over 2 miles. Using the same Macmillan TAC-50 that Furlong used 15 years earlier. That record still stands today. 3 of the top 5 longest sniper kills in history, Canadian. The weapon used? Macmillan TAC-50, all of them. This isn't coincidence. This is doctrine. This is training. This is a culture that prioritizes precision over firepower, patience over aggression, mastery over bravado. After Operation Anaconda U.S. commanders request JTF2 support for every major operation in eastern Afghanistan. Not because they need more troops. They have troops. They need the invisible edge, the psychological warfare, the capability to eliminate threats before they become threats, and JTF2 delivers. Chapter 4, Pantom Operators, Kandahar Province, 2002 to 2011. Here's what makes JTF2 different from other special operations forces. American operators dominate through overwhelming capability. SEALs hit hard and fast. Delta Force brings precision firepower. Rangers establish control through presence. British SAS uses stealth and surprise. Insertions, raids, quick extractions. JTF2? They disappear completely. Their tactics are Soviet-influenced, learned from studying Spetsnaz, from analyzing Chechen guerrillas, from decades of counter-terrorism against enemies who don't wear uniform. They infiltrate 48 to 72 hours before an operation. They hide in positions the enemy already cleared. They use natural camouflage that defeats thermal optics. They communicate using coded phrases in local languages. And they wait. A US Army sergeant attached to a JTF2 team in 2009 later describes it. I walked past one of them 3 times before I realized he wasn't local. He had a full beard, spoke perfect Pashto, wore local clothes, carried himself like a farmer. Then I saw the rifle optic, and I understood. These guys aren't playing soldier. They are the environment. That's the difference. JTF2 operations in Kandahar become legendary among coalition forces, not because anyone sees them, but because of what happens when they're present. High-value targets disappear. Taliban commanders stop appearing in public. Insurgent attacks decrease in specific areas. Enemy fighters surrender without explanation. One captured Taliban fighter tells his interrogators in 2007, "I would rather fight the Americans with their bombs. At least you know when they're coming. The Canadians. You never know. You never see. You just die." But here's what's really happening. JTF2 isn't just killing targets. They're creating a psychological effect that's worth more than 1,000 conventional troops. Consider this. A Taliban cell plans an attack. They gather intelligence, scout the target, prepare weapons, brief their fighters. Then, the night before the operation, their commander dies, shot from an unknown position. No warning, no firefight, just dead. The operation is cancelled. The fighters scatter. Some desert entirely because they realize someone is watching, someone knows their plans, someone can kill them at will. That's worth more than killing 50 insurgents in a firefight. JTF2 perfects what they call layered overwatch, multiple sniper teams positioned at different elevations and ranges, covering the same area from different angles, communicating through encrypted radio bursts. If one team doesn't have the shot, another does. If a target moves behind cover, they're exposed to a different angle. There's no escape, no safe ground. The technique becomes NATO doctrine. Every special operations unit studies it, adopts it, trains to it, but nobody does it better than JTF2. Between 2002 and 2011, JTF2 conducts over 1,200 operations in Afghanistan. Exact number of confirmed kills, classified. Names of operators, sealed under Canadian law. Mission details, redacted. What we know, 0 Canadian JTF2 operators killed in combat during the entire Afghan war. 1 death, Master Corporal Anthony Klumpenhauer in 2007, from an accident involving a communications tower. For a unit that operated continuously in the most dangerous province in Afghanistan for nearly a decade, that's extraordinary. Here's what US Army Colonel John Coleman testifies to Congress in 2008. The Canadians brought a level of precision and psychological warfare we'd never seen. They don't just eliminate targets. They create an environment where the enemy doesn't want to fight. That's next-level warfare. But there's a dark side to this story. In 2024, former JTF2 Sergeant Claude Lepage files a lawsuit against the Canadian government. His allegations: between 2005 and 2008, he witnessed 5 instances of unarmed Afghan civilians being killed by JTF2 or coalition forces working with JTF2. The allegations have not been proven in court. The Canadian government denies them. But Lepage's lawsuit describes a unit operating with minimal oversight, making decisions in the field, answering to no one. That's the reality of special operations. They work in the shadows, they're given extraordinary latitude, and sometimes that latitude leads to actions that cross lines. The Canadian military investigates. A heavily redacted report is released in 2018. Conclusion: no criminal conduct by Canadian forces. But acknowledgement that JTF2 may have witnessed war crimes committed by coalition troops from other countries. The truth? We may never know. That's the nature of classified operations. What we do know, JTF2 changed the game. They proved that small units of highly trained operators can achieve strategic effects. That precision matters more than firepower, that the best warriors are the ones you never see. Chapter 5, Legacy of Precision 2002 to present. Rob Furlong's record shot in March 2002 does more than break a record. It breaks a mental barrier. Before 2002, military doctrine says extreme range sniping beyond 1,200 meters is impractical, possible in controlled conditions. Unreliable in combat, not worth training for. After 2002, every military in the world rewrites its sniper manuals. US Marine Corps Scout Sniper School adds extreme range modules. They study Canadian techniques, adopt similar equipment, train at high altitude to replicate Afghan conditions. US Army updates its marksmanship doctrine. Emphasis shifts from volume of fire to first-round precision. Because Furlong proved that one perfect shot at 2,400 meters is worth more than 100 rounds at 800 meters, British military sends officers to Canada to study JTF2 training methods. They return and restructure their own sniper programs, more emphasis on patience, on observation, on understanding the environment. Even the Russians pay attention. Spetsnaz incorporates Canadian tactics into their mountain warfare doctrine. The Macmillan TAC-50, the rifle Furlong used, becomes the gold standard for extreme-range sniping. Militaries around the world purchase it. 3 of the 5 longest confirmed kills in history are made with this weapon. But the real legacy isn't about distance, it's about philosophy. JTF2 proves that modern warfare isn't about who has the most firepower. It's about who can apply force at the exact right moment, in the exact right way, with zero wasted effort. American military culture values speed and aggression, overwhelming force, shock and awe. That works. But it's predictable. Enemies learn when Americans attack, how they maneuver, where they're vulnerable. JTF2 operates on a different clock. They watch targets for days, let opportunities pass. Wait for perfect conditions. Accept mission delays if the shot isn't guaranteed. This drives American commanders crazy at first. Take the shot. One US colonel radios to a JTF2 team in 2007. The response, negative. Wind conditions unfavorable. 6 hours later, the wind drops. Visibility improves. The target moves to an exposed position. One shot, 2,100 meters. Dead. The colonel learns to trust Canadian judgment. Master Sergeant Aaron Irving, US Army, attached to JTF2 in 2009, explains it best. Americans hunt tactically. We want to close with the enemy and destroy them. Canadians hunt like apex predators. They study the prey, understand its behavior, wait for it to make a fatal mistake. Both approaches work, but the Canadian way, it's terrifying to face. That becomes the template for 21st century special operations. Study the target, understand the environment, wait for the perfect moment, strike without warning, disappear before anyone realizes what happened. JSOC adopts elements of this. CIA paramilitary units train to it. Even conventional infantry incorporates the mindset, patience over speed, precision over volume. The psychological impact becomes a weapon itself. In Iraq, in Syria, in Somalia, insurgents change their behavior not because they're being attacked, but because they fear they're being watched. Taliban commanders in 2010 refused to use radios, refused to gather in groups, refused to operate during daylight, not because of drone strikes, because of snipers they'll never see. That's strategic impact. Craig Harrison's 2,475-meter shot in 2009. The unnamed JTF2 operator's 3,540-meter shot in 2017. These aren't just records, they're messages. The message, nowhere is safe. Distance is not protection. We can reach you whenever we want. And the enemy gets the message. But there's a human cost to this precision warfare. Rob Furlong, after leaving the military, struggles with what he did. He gave interviews in 2007 describing his treatment by the Canadian military after becoming famous. The burden of being known for killing at record distances. He joins the Edmonton Police Service in 2004. He's dismissed in 2012 for misconduct, an incident involving abuse of another officer. His life unravels, because here's what nobody talks about. Snipers see their targets through scopes that magnify 8 times, 10 times. They see faces, see expressions, see the moment of death. Most soldiers never see the enemy that clearly. Most kills happen at distance, through smoke, through chaos. It's impersonal. Sniping? It's intimate, even at 2,400 meters. That takes a psychological toll. Furlong, Perry, Harrison. They all struggle with it, some publicly. The Canadian military offers counseling, debriefs, support systems. But the nature of JTF2's work, classified, isolated, never publicly acknowledged, makes healing harder. You can't talk about what you did, can't share it with family, can't process it with civilians who'll never understand. You carry it alone. That's the real legacy. Yes, JTF2 changed warfare. Yes, they proved that small, highly trained units can achieve strategic effects. Yes, they set records that still stand. But they also showed us the cost of precision, the burden of seeing your target so clearly, of knowing exactly what you did, of carrying that knowledge in silence, forever. Between 2001 and 2014, over 40,000 Canadian Armed Forces personnel serve in Afghanistan. 159 Canadians are killed, over 2,000 are wounded. JTF2's exact casualty count classified, their kill count classified, their operations classified. But their impact? That's undeniable. Every modern military sniper program studies their tactics. Every special operations unit trains to their standards. Every insurgent in every conflict zone knows, somewhere at a distance they can't imagine, someone might be watching, waiting for the perfect shot. In the end, warfare isn't about firepower, it's about precision. It's not about how many rounds you fire, it's about making the first round count. It's not about being seen, it's about being felt. JTF2 mastered that equation in the mountains of Afghanistan. Rob Furlong, Aaron Perry, the unnamed operators who set the current record, they rewrote the rulebook, the U.S. military honors them with medals. The Taliban fears them with whispers. History barely remembers them, because that's how they wanted it. If this story gave you a new perspective on modern warfare, hit that like button. Subscribe for more classified military history that textbooks won't teach you. Turn on notifications so you catch every upload. Drop a comment. What other secret operations should we expose? Which classified units deserve their story told? And remember, the most dangerous warriors are the ones history forgets to mention. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.